Today we'll be talking about when to settle versus when to go to trial in your personal injury case. Deciding whether to settle your personal injury case or go to trial will depend on a number of factors. So here's a breakdown of some of the things you can consider in making an informed decision. Let's start with when should I settle my personal injury case, or under what circumstances should I decide to settle? Settling a personal injury case would make sense when the offer is fair and reasonable. That's something that you will have to determine with the input of somebody who can give you advice, typically a personal injury attorney. Listen to the advice of your lawyer. It might be a circumstance where you would want to close your case and settle it. A fair and reasonable settlement offer would be an offer, obviously, that covers adequately and fairly the losses you've sustained. And in personal injury cases, that typically includes economic losses, lost wages, both in the past and money into the future if you're continuing to lose income, and medical expenses or other expenses related to your health care or your ability to maintain your home, things like medical bills, both in the past and consideration for the future, but also in certain circumstances, depending on the nature and severity of the injury, other expenses to compensate for the lost ability to perform maybe duties around your home, housekeeping, lawn maintenance. In addition to economic losses, any fair settlement should contemplate and award you money for what you've been through, your pain and suffering. It's important to have an experienced lawyer, someone that can help you assess those damages and tell you what a fair and reasonable settlement would be. Another reason why somebody might want to settle their case as opposed to going to trial would be where it's a person or an individual looking for a faster resolution. If that's the main goal, is to conclude the case, settlement makes sense. Settlement is typically faster than going through full litigation and trial. Sometimes to the point where the person's interest is so much in getting it resolved quickly that they'll also give a discount and settle for less than what the case might be worth. That's something you want to discuss with your lawyer and let them know. From our perspective as attorneys, we're trying to maximize the value of your case. So we're not necessarily looking for the fastest resolution. We're looking for the fastest resolution that's fair. But if your concern is concluding your case, getting done with it, putting it aside, make sure your attorney is aware of that so that they can follow your advice and try to get you a settlement earlier. There could be circumstances where you would want to settle because of concerns about the risk of trial. Most personal injury cases are jury trials. Jury trials are typically unpredictable. It's hard to know how the jury will see the evidence, how the jury will perceive you in your case. Your lawyer can give you an idea of what they expect to happen or what's happened in similar cases, but a lawyer can't guarantee the outcome of a trial. A settlement gives you more control because you know exactly what's being offered, and it's your opportunity to accept it and eliminate that risk of having complete strangers decide the outcome of your case. Another important consideration on deciding whether to settle a case or go to trial, both for you and for the lawyer, is the client's ability to go through the emotional part of a trial. Trials can be lengthy, trials are stressful. Not all clients can go through that process. That's an important consideration too. Sometimes the lawyer wants to go to trial, thinks it's a good idea. They also have to be aware of their client, and can their client go through the process? Will their client be able to present evidence, be cross-examined, discuss the facts of their case with a judge and a jury present? That's an important consideration. So now let's look at circumstances when it might be a good idea to go to trial, or when it makes more sense to go to trial than to accept the settlement. Sometimes the decision to go to trial is really simple. Either the insurance company is not offering any money, or the offer is wholly inadequate, and they're making the decision to go to trial quite easy for you. In circumstances where it's an unfair, unreasonable offer to settle the case, your lawyer's advice might be, let's take this case to trial, see what a jury will do with this case. There are some cases that evidence is very strong, the case is strong, there are certain factors in that case that should be told to a jury. The full value of some cases might not be able to be achieved through settlement. because of unique factors or strengths or issues in the case that should be really told. That story needs to be told to a jury to maximize the outcome of the case. And so there are some circumstances, although those are, I would say, a minority of cases, there are cases where the story should be told to a jury, and the opportunity for a jury to fairly assess the value or the quantum for the recovery of the victim can only be accomplished through a jury trial. Another consideration of whether to go to trial is whether you can withstand the risks, some of the financial risks of going to trial. And again, this will depend on the jurisdiction. Most often, your personal injury lawyer will not ask for fees unless they're successful in recovering money for you. There could still be financial risks of going to trial. Many jurisdictions have cost consequences. The prevailing party is entitled to some of their costs to be reimbursed by the losing party. But typically, it gets triggered by proposals for settlement. So where there's a formal offer to settle a case or a proposal to settle a case and you don't beat that offer. So for instance, if the defense in your personal injury case made an offer and you refused it and you said, no, I'm going to go to trial and see what the outcome is, depending on the jurisdiction, that could trigger cost consequences. If you don't beat their offer, meaning you don't do better at trial, what better means will be defined by the jurisdiction. You could be on the hook for the other side's fees. That's an important consideration. That's something your lawyer will probably discuss with you and allow you to make an informed decision on whether you want to take that risk. So just to recap, some of the key things you want to consider when deciding whether or not to settle a case versus go to trial would be the strength of your case. How well can you present that case in the presence of a jury in a courtroom? Your financial needs. Is the settlement offer adequate? Do you have longer term needs that aren't being contemplated by that settlement? Longer term financial loss that isn't being compensated such that it makes sense to go to trial and have a jury assess those damages. So that's another one. Your risk tolerance, whether you're willing to accept the uncertainty of a jury verdict versus the certainty of a settlement offer where you can decide to accept it versus setting it all aside and going into trial, leaving it up to a jury to make those assessments and decide whether you're entitled to compensation, and if so, how much. Time commitment is also an important consideration. Trial is typically the last stop for a personal injury lawsuit or personal injury claim. It will take longer to get to the trial. If a settlement offer is made either pre-litigation or in litigation, that would conclude your case. You typically get paid fairly quickly and your case is closed. So in deciding whether or not to go to trial, it's really important to consult with an attorney. If you have a lawyer, speak to them. Presumably you trust your lawyer, you've worked with your lawyer, and so listen to the advice they're giving you on whether or not to go to trial or accept the settlement. If you don't have a lawyer and you're contemplating whether to accept the settlement or proceed with litigation, again, consult with a lawyer. Speak to a lawyer with experience in personal injury claims and try to find out if it makes sense to keep going forward. An experienced personal injury attorney can help you assess the value of your claim. They will help you evaluate the strengths of your case and also be open with you and tell you what the weaknesses of your case are, if any. And most cases do have weaknesses as well as strengths. Based on their experience, they can provide you with insight if you proceeded to trial. Hope you enjoyed learning about this. If you have any questions about your personal injury matter, feel free to reach out to us. We're available for free consultations. Our telephone number is toll-free and it's answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Or you can visit our website and request a free consultation.